Asking me why it's private. All right. Looks like we are live.
Okay.
And I'm with Hasse Froberg and his musical companion. And they have a brand new album out called Eternal Snapshots. If you haven't already got it, I really suggest you do, because it's really good, start to finish. So how are you doing? I hear you're very busy.
Yeah, I'm great. I just got back from our neighbors across the street. Been out there. They treated me with dinner and some wine, so couldn't get much better, actually. And yes, I'm busy, but it's not that bad, actually. Most of the gigs are done by now, and so now it's a bit of a relaxation time, I would say, coming up.
Well, like I said, with your new album, and then I was also looking that this is actually your 40th anniversary of making music.
Yeah, 40 years as a recording artist, I would say. I was actually writing music and making music before, but to tell you the truth, for what it's worth, I actually released my very first recording as far back as in 1978, which means I was only 14 years old, and I was invited to sing with a couple of guys that had a blues band called Barrel House, and I was I mean, what do you say when you don't even have your male voice? I still sounded like a choir boy,
Right.
Yeah, very up there, and so that was released in like a single, like, what do you say, 2 songs on a 45,
right,
back in the day, so that was my first release, but I really don't consider that to be the first album, since it was just a single. So but in 1984 I released the first LP with my former band back then called Spellbound, which was like a hard rock band, 80s style. We were very much influenced by bands like UFO, Thin Lizzy, Deep Purple, and those bands.
Right.
Even though a lot of things happened when we started. When we started the band, we were very young, like teenagers still, and before the album was released in 1984, we had the Los Angeles boom with all the, whatever they were called, Rat and Motley Crue, and all those bands were all over the place. At the end of the day, we were like a mishmash of lots of influences, but still somehow I think we managed to keep our own identity in there somewhere. But we did 2 albums in 84 and 85, and we played a lot and so on. So that was when where my career started, you can say.
Oh, wow. Yeah, your career started when I graduated from high school.
Yeah, I wasn't much older myself. I was, and I can honestly say that when I listen, not that I listen to them that often, but if I hear them, I'm not 100% comfortable listening to the lyrics I wrote back then. But then again, you have to remember I was like 17, 18 years old when I wrote them. So
right.
But it is what it is, and we had a great time, and it was so, what do you say, like educational. It was the learning years, and the shows we did were very spontaneous, and we just did what felt natural, and we had a lot of fun, and it was mostly built on energy, no second thought whatsoever. We just played our hearts out and had a lot of fun, and it was it was a perfect start, really, to get the feel for what it's like playing live and all that. And even when I listen back to it, if I do, we could play. So it's nothing I'm embarrassed about, except for maybe the lyrics. But apart from that, it feels totally okay listening to it.
And then you kind of fast forwarding a bit, about 10 years, you hooked up with Ronnie Stolt, and and kind of the rest is history, so to speak, as
a little bit like that. We obviously we lived and we still live very close to each other, like a 20-minute drive, and it was so and he was in Kaipa back then, which I was aware about. He was probably not aware about me, but somehow along the line we met, and we because I had another band after Spellbound. I started a more of a classic rock band. We played music in the style of Faces, Rolling Stones, that kind of style. And he actually produced our first demo tape. Or first demo, I should say. And that's where we met for real. And I think that's where he kind of saw my talent or whatever. And I guess he liked my voice. So when he was recording his first The Flower Kings album, and he all of a sudden realized that he was maybe too ambitious in his writing, because he didn't think of that he was going. Well, he had planned to sing all the music himself, but he realized along the way that this is not my key at all. I can't even do this. So he phoned me, and I came by a couple of hours later. I think it was because it was the very same day I came by the studio he worked in at that time, and we recorded the song "The Flower King," and it was just done in a couple of hours, I think. So that's where we started to work together. But it took what do you say, like 2 more years maybe, or something like that, before I joined the band. Because I had even though if the band back then that I was playing with, which by the way was called Solid Blue, even if we were on the verge of we were not. We had released an album, but it was going nowhere. So we were kind of. I don't think we actually decided to finish the band. It just happened, because we did lots of shows. I mean, we really played a lot live, but when the album didn't, not much happened. So at the end of the day, we kind of just quit in a very silent and soft way, so to speak. And at that time, it didn't take a couple of weeks later. I think it was Roine who called me, and then after a while, I joined the Flower Kings, and 2 other major things happened during those years. I got my first and my still only kids during those years, so it was perfect timing for everything, really. Yeah,
it's like you guys just every time I listen to any of the Flower Kings albums, it's like you got your voices together just are so complementary, especially when you're singing together. in the same song. It's very complimentary, and you don't get that too often.
No,
It's
and that's just what do you say? It's just pure luck, because
yeah,
if you look at Royner's voice and mine, if you look at them separately, we don't sound anything like each other. But when we sing together, they blend somehow very well
yeah,
together. It might be that they are so different. I don't know, but it's, as you say, it sounds good. They blend very well together, and I think even more now in later years, and probably because we've been singing so much together. So I guess that also helps.
right.
Yeah, the hours put in obviously gives a result in the end. So I think it's better now than it ever was, and especially in a live situation. As
Right.
long as we remember the lyrics, that is, because by age, I don't know what's going on with the brain sometimes, but most of the times we do sing the same lyrics, but you never know.
Yeah, probably the diehard fans will probably know the difference. I mean, the ones that are casual, they'll be like, okay, that's
Yeah,
because there's always those kind of fans that are just like almost like doing their homework exactly on the lyrics and everything. I mean, I like watching on especially on YouTube when they do lyric videos because I, sometimes what I hear and what is actually being said are sometimes two different things. So it's nice to know, are they singing what I'm actually hearing, or just so it's nice. It helps, I think.
yeah, and think about it, being from a not English speaking country.
Right,
I remember, I mean, before internet, when you go, I used to be in a lots of, I was playing in different cover bands, and we were sitting there listening to the records, trying to figure out what the guys were singing.
right.
And it was like parody. Sometimes you got it all wrong, but at the end of the day, the audience didn't know themselves what the lyrics was like. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it didn't make any difference. But I mean, most of the time you got it right, but there were sometimes you got it completely wrong because you didn't understand. You thought you knew what they were singing, but obviously you did not all the time. You were totally wrong at sometimes.
Well, for a non-English speaker, that would be almost okay. That's okay, but then there's some of the English speaking that don't understand some of the English speaking singing. Because they would either it just the way they enunciate words, and sometimes words sounds similar to something else, and it's like then you get there's I know there's plenty of videos on YouTube that have misheard lyrics
Yeah,
where and you sometimes it's like you thought years and years it was one way of what they were saying, but then you hear the actual way, and it kind of just in a way kind of blows your mind. It's like, oh my god, I didn't know that they was talking about that.
uh, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. And I mean, then as you mentioned, it also happens to English-speaking persons, and still they get it all wrong. So imagine being from
Exactly.
Sweden; it's very easy to get it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so then you formed your new band,
Yeah,
Musical Companion, um, and you put out plenty of great albums, and each one that I noticed just improves upon itself. Uh, and going up to now the most recent one that was released this summer,
yeah,
Eternal Snapshots, and I got to tell you that this is so far my favorite of all your musical companions. It just, like I was just saying, it keeps on improving upon itself, and I like that when bands do that and they don't stand still. They try new things that but while still retaining their core sound. You know,
Yeah.
it's because there is a lot of especially progressive rock bands that they find a formula and they just stay with it and they don't go outside of the box. And it's also with rock bands too.
Yeah.
Which is it's more acceptable if it's a rock band, but if a progressive rock band need to do something new, at least and with your voice, you have such a recognizable voice that even if you did something completely different than you've done in the past, they'll know that it's you. But there's some vocalists that they sound very generic, and if they do something different, it confuses their fan base because they don't know who this is.
Yeah. I think it sounds really cool to me that you're saying actually, and what can I say really? When I write music, and that because nowadays in our band HFMC we are several songwriters, and we are always the main thing when we write is the melody. It's not about the cool riff or a cool sound or a cool heavy drum beat or whatever. It's so the melody is in focus, which means that the rest can be changed, and we always try to improve the everything from our playing to the production to the actual actual sound of the album as good as we possibly can, which of course every band does, I guess. But some bands have, like, I mean, let's for instance take AC/DC or Iron Maiden. They can't go too far, because then their fans would go nuts if they would sound too different. I'm not afraid of that because I feel very, very free when I write music, and everything comes. Even the songs I don't write myself, it feels like they come from me. I don't know if they somehow adapt to my kind of songwriting, if it's Ola or Sampo or Cello or who it is that's contributing with music, but it feels like it really feels like a band nowadays, and it's really because in all honesty, the first two albums, I wrote every single note. I told the guys what to play and everything.
Right.
But then I said, but because when I started it, I didn't know, will we be around for long, or will this be a temporary thing? And I didn't know back then. And then I understand, no, we like to play. We will carry on for a while or for some time. And so I said to the guys, be my guest, write music. I love to hear what you have to say, and you can help out with the arrangements and everything, because they are such great players themselves.
Right.
And if you're a band, why not use all the talent you have in the band?
Exactly.
So that was my. So before the third album, which by the way is titled, like the band HFMC, which was no coincidence. It was like, now we're a band, so that's why we took the easy way out, naming the album the name of the band. So from there we worked more like a unit,
right.
And and to me it feels just great, and I think for the other members too, because they feel more involved in the whole process of recording and writing and everything.
So how would you compare, you know, when you write a song for HFMC or the Flower Kings? How would you?
I mean, it's no difference at all, actually. If I come up, as I told you, it's very often, or if not every time, it starts with a melody, or maybe sometimes with you maybe got a vocal line with some words that you got in your head, and that you feel this is a starting point of whatever it might be. But if it ends up on a album by the Flower Kings or HFMC, it's at the time I write it, I don't know really. Like for instance, on Islands, I have an album I have a song called what was it called? Like it was like all I need is love. It was like like a hint of the Beatles, you know.
Right.
I thought that was actually going to end up on a HFMC album, but it ended up on the Flower Kings. So there you go. It could just as well as ended up on the previous album, I guess, or 2 albums ago with the HFMC.
I was just curious about that, because you know how when people have 2 different bands, you know, I like that they can have similarities, but also like that they have differences. You know that you know that this belongs here and it belongs there. You know, you're not right. I guess, for instance, I'll go back to in the 80s with Genesis. You couldn't differentiate between a Genesis album and a Phil Collins album. They were just too exactly similar.
Exactly.
And I mean, while it worked for him, I preferred that they would have kept those 2 things separate instead of going that route. But you know, made him money. You know, so I think that's what at that point he was concerned about.
Yeah. Well, I hate to disappoint you, but when I write, and in that very moment, I don't actually think of where it will end,
where it belongs.
Yeah, where it belongs. But along the way, I start to get a feel for it. But well, this is definitely will be on the next HFMC album, or maybe I will propose this for Roine to be on the next, possibly to be on the next Flower Kings album if it feels right, you know. So I think that's the way I handle it, and I'm not like like those professional writers that starts at 8 o'clock in the morning in front of the piano and they work until 4 o'clock, and they write, you know, and they write, and I write purely on inspiration. If I have something comes into my head, wow, this is you know, you start to sing something into your phone or whatever to memorize it, and so that's more or less the way I work. Sometimes I don't write a song for half a year, and then I write 10 songs in 2 weeks. You never know what it's like. So it's very, very different, actually. And I think Roy is the other person. He writes constantly, and he's in the studio all the time. We're all different, so that's the way it works.
Now I want to get to your new album. Just showing this for anyone out there watching what it looks like. I mean, it had kind of like a nice little gatefold here.
Yep.
And then, of course, at the back you have the end credits. Want to go by the songs. First off, All I Wanted to Be Part 1.
I wrote that many years ago. The core of the song, when the vocal starts, the verse and the bridge and the chorus. I wrote that probably 4 or 5 years ago, but I felt the lyrics wasn't right. I can't even remember what I was singing, but it just didn't feel right. So I just kept it there, And then all of a sudden, before this new album, Eternal Snapshots, we had a meeting. Where shall we go? What shall we do next? This is our 6th album. We need to come up with something new. So we decided to make some kind of a, let's say, concept album. It might be. I would rather say it's it's a theme on the album, on the lyrics, but it's not like it's not a story in there or anything. But it's a theme about that's another thing. And anyway, so when we decided that, I all of a sudden wrote the lyrics that is all I wanted to be, because I could get a feeling of I very quickly in my head developed this kind of I saw this town on the coast. I saw these 2 people. One is living a happy life, one is living a miserable life. And it all started from there. I just needed something to start the process of writing the lyrics. And then I wrote it very quickly then. So that's where it started. And I'm very happy. It's like the music, if I'm going back to the music, it's, what do you say, almost like the harmonies. I could hear like a church organ play it. It's right. Almost, like a church music or whatever it's called in English. I don't know, but I could hear a church organ play the music itself with the melody, and it would work in the church. It's like a very sensitive, beautiful melody in there. So that is the start of the album, and it's also the ending of the album. So, and I think it's a perfect start. And the intro to the song, it's the first part of the intro is written by me, and when you play the kind of up-tempo thing, it was actually the drummer Ola that came up with a da 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 da. So it's a collaboration between him and me, and which turned out great, I think.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a perfect way to open, the album that way,
Yeah. So, thank you.
Because it kind of introduced you into kind of almost what the feel of the whole album was going to be.
Yeah.
And
that was what I was looking for and aiming for. So I'm very glad you say that. When you open an album, or the album opener is always the most tricky thing, because you need to catch the listener, to make them hooked on whatever the rest of the album will be, so it's very important you get the first song right, and I think that's a very good opener, actually, even though it's very soft at times. Normally you have like the first song, but this is not like that. More sentimental and melancholy at times, but still it works, I think.
Oh yeah, and then it goes right into Deserve to Be Happy.
Yeah, which is a little bit of everything, I guess, and that the whole song started with me writing. I had this riff, down, ba, 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 da, 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 da. That's where it started,
Right.
And sometimes you're lucky because that is the whatever you hear in the rest of the song is actually built on that.
Right.
Almost every not all the parts, but most of the parts are built around that thing, but in other clothes, so to speak. So, but it's an interesting song. It's got everything, the first verse with the bass going on and the vocals, and then the kind of cheesy 80s chorus, and then the part I just mentioned, which could be like a UK thing almost,
Right.
so it's a little bit of everything in there, but I think it's a great song, and it has a great energy to it, and it's very fun to play.
Yeah, I mean, once you got into that song, I knew exactly that this was going to be. I didn't even up until that point. Obviously, to that point, I only heard those first two. But then when I got to all of it, I was like, this is going to be an album that I'm going to revisit a lot.
Yeah.
To listen, and I have since I got it about three weeks ago, and
okay. Yeah.
I did get it for anyone in United States. There's a place called the Bandwagon USA.
Yeah.
And I got it from them because obviously because of the high postage coming from outside of the United States. And but normally I tell people buy it from the artist directly. So anyone in Sweden and that doesn't have this, they can buy it directly from you or your Bandcamp.
Yeah. It's like www.hfmcbandcamp.com,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as people they can download it. I mean, as long as they listen to our music, and if they pay for it, it's even better, of course, because it helps a lot. But
yeah.
I mean, I feel the album is so good, so I just want people to listen to it because I think there's still many people out there, no matter if you're into, I mean, hardcore, maybe not hardcore progressive. If you like super strange music, it's not for you. But I mean, if you like progressive rock, if you like classic rock, I think you will like the album. There's a good chance you will, actually.
Oh, yeah. And then you go into Wherever You May Go. And this one, for me, has a very cinematic feel to it.
Yeah.
It's, and I don't know why, it just felt like I was listening to a movie.
First of all, it's my personal favorite. And when it's me and the drummer Ola, we wrote it together like 50-50. I wrote the lyrics, but the music is like 50-50. And it's funny when I listen to the music, it's like when I hear the verses, I think of Fleetwood Mac, and when we come to the bridge, ba da 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 ba da 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 da, I think of Billy Joel. I don't know why, but you always got these things in your head for some reason. I don't know, but so I always said to the guys just what I told you, and I don't think they understand what I'm talking about it, but I've always heard the music that way, and I really don't know why. But it's something, especially in the verse, with Anton's very very melancholy guitar fills that he's playing around my vocal lines that creates such an atmosphere of it's just a great piece of music, I think. And then of course you have the crescendo in the ending, and it's all of a sudden, even though the chords are very sweet and kind and everything, becomes like a huge ending all of a sudden, which is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, that's one of two of my favorites from the
Okay, cool.
So then we go up to the next one, No Messiah.
Yeah, it's the music is 100% written by a drummer, Ola, and the lyrics is 100% written by me. But along the line, when we rehearse the music, everyone has their input, but it's definitely written by Ola. And it's, I would say, the most prog sounding song of the album. And I think everyone can hear the kind of little, what do you say, hint to Genesis we have in the verses with Ola's drums there,
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's so funny because Kjell, the keyboard player, he's, what do you say, more maybe into music like fusion and jazz than prog, for instance, or rock. So as soon as you get the chance, you always put in some chords that Ola or me would never put in there, and it's so funny because when we were sitting there, we lifted in his keyboards into the music because Kjell was very, very, very ill, so his keyboards it came in the very last second, just the week before we were doing the mixes, and it's not long before it's time to do the mastering, and we lifted in, and you hear all of a sudden like total sounding chords here and there that we did not have when we were rehearsing the music. But at first I said, oh no, this won't work, and after a while I started digging it, and now it's just, and it's like no one will probably even notice it, but it's like the last bar before the chorus, it like two very typical Toto sounding chords in there that at first I thought sounded terrible. Now I love them. So thank you, Kjell. That's all I'm saying. But that is the thing about being in a band. You shall actually not be afraid of using the whatever they can to help to broaden the music and put more colors into the music. And since we have what do you say, different inputs and different inspirations, of course it will broaden the sound. That's a natural thing when you decide to use all the members you have in the band, instead of, like I said, the first two albums when I did everything myself. Now we're all involved in the music, and to me it sounds more vibrant and more fun and more alive than it did back in the day. So for me it's a good thing, and I think for most of the listeners too, even though I know a lot of people love those first two albums. So, but I think most of the guys are happy with the way we're sounding nowadays.
Right. And the next one you got up was Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah, that was the first sample of music, and also the video we let out, or that was released from the album. And that was except for the title track, or not the title track, but except for the starting song and the last song, All I Wanted to Be. This was the first song that I actually wrote for the album. And it started with I had this chorus, once in a lifetime, finally the right time, and the rest was made in like half an hour. Sometimes you're lucky. It's every now and then you need to struggle to get a song right, and sometimes it just happens. And this song was one of those, and to me, I think it's like a combination of. I've read many reviews where they say that we sound like Journey on this album. I don't hear that, but I hear, to me it's like a pop song with combined with classic rock maybe. And then of course you have the part before the last chorus where it turns like, I say it's circus music, some people say it sounds like the Beatles, probably like a mix of the two.
Right.
I don't know, but I'm very happy with that song because it's up tempo, it's positive energy, and those are the hardest to write actually.
Yeah, this was the other one that I enjoyed a lot, and
yeah,
I saw the video before I bought the album. So the video, I just felt the energy off of it, and I was like going, okay, you know, I've been wanting to talk with him for a while now, so this is I think it's perfect because uh, the album just was released, so get him while he's still in the fresh mindset of the album, and that video. I mean, I've shared that video I don't know how many times, and I
yeah,
was because it's like it's a perfect in some ways a perfect gateway to get into your music.
yeah. You're right. You are right about that.
And and like you said that the circus part when you went into that, it automatically I felt like uh, it was kind of like some rock bands in the '70s where they kind of did a little something towards the end, just something a little
yeah,
fun, a little extra fun to the song, and I was like going, okay, this uh, in no means is a throwback to it, but it's almost like it's like a tip of the hat to it's like to what came
yeah,
before, and that's what it's just a fun song to listen to, and like you said, the chorus really catchy because it's still right in here right now.
yeah.
So
It is. I felt immediately when I wrote it that this is it's a strong hook. And when we decided what to release first, because I know most of our audience is it's a progressive rock audience, and I think maybe
right,
this is too lightweight for them. Maybe they will think that we're a pop band if we release this. But then, what the heck? It's a good song, and even if it sounds very easy listening, but if you look at it, not that it matters, but both the verse and the chorus is in 7/4. So it's no like straightforward rock and roll. It's odd beats, and we have the mellotron choirs, and we have even the towers bass in the before the last chorus and everything. So it has its what do you say, like progressive moments too in the
right.
middle of everything else. So for me, it's like 5 minutes of everything really at the same time as it's really showcases HFMC what we're really about, because we're about most of the things you can play almost between progressive rock and hard rock and maybe pop at times. So, and it's all in there.
Yeah. Then you next one we have is Only for Me.
Which is a song made and sung by Ola. All I'm doing on that one is I'm doing some background vocals. Uh, to me, it's just like a sweet little tune, because when that, if you're gonna do an album like this, yeah, let's call it a concept album. Then I think you need to have. You can't play like no matter what music it is. You need to have the right dynamics to make an album interesting. And this is the part where you don't have the drums, you don't even have a bass. It's just piano, acoustic guitars, and our bass player Sampo is playing pedal steel with lots of reverb on it, so it doesn't even sound like a pedal steel. So that's it, and Ola's voice and my voice, and it's just a sweet and melodic little pearl to my ears. Then it might not be remembered as a hit song or anything, but it has its place on the album for sure to my ears.
Uh,
That's the way I see it.
yeah, it's a good. I like that too. It's I like when albums have a for lack of a better way of saying a moment of rest between what because if you go full speed ahead from song to the last song, I'm very uncomfortable with that because you're not giving me a chance to breathe and to take in all the sounds. But when you have a dynamic and then you have, and it's not really a slow song, but you just have that moment where it's like you're taking a little bit of pause. It's an interlude of sorts towards,
That's the way I see it before you start building up towards the end, So that's the way I look at that song, and also I remember when Ola played he made a simple demo of it and he played it to me. I said, "This is definitely for the album." Here we are. It made it all the way to the album, and once again, to me, it has its place. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and then you have the short song, "The Yard."
Yeah, our bass player came up with this killer bass riff, and it's I don't know, it's like King Crimson sounding crazy, like I don't know how to describe it really, but all I know is that people really likes it, and we had a lot of fun recording it because we were in the studio, and we had what do you say? We had we had the song really, but we didn't know how to end it. Shall it be 2 minutes? Shall it be 4 minutes? We had no idea, and we just played it, and all of a sudden we all stopped at the same time, and it's not even 2 minutes, and well, this is it. It's like a like a energy boost in the middle of everything, and it's talking about different flavors. That one has a totally different flavor from the rest of the album, but in the right kind of way. It's an energy boost for sure.
And then you got "Searching for the Dark."
Also a song written by our bass player Sampo Axelsson. Both he actually wrote the lyrics too, and I think it's how shall you describe it? It's to start with, I love this song very, very much, and I think it's also one of those songs that it's got a lot of information, even though it's in a way very, very clean and straightforward, but it has a depth to it anyway. Even though the first verse is just me and Shell on the Fender Rhodes piano, and it's talking about Billy Joel. It could be like Billy Joel song or whatever, until the band kicks in, and the chorus is really cool. I think I like it. I really don't know what to say about it, but I like the song a lot.
And then the next one, "A Sorrowful Mariner."
Yeah, it was actually meant to be like a intro to one of the songs, but somehow along the way we noticed that it doesn't really work. But Shell had put in quite a lot of love into those. It's also like a bit of a church organ sound, even though it's a Hammond. And if I remember right now, it is some like almost like a mellotron choir or something, and clavinet. I don't know, but it's just keyboards and almost like classical music at times and church music. Also something that we haven't had present on an album before, which it felt like a new thing. And also before the last two songs, it just felt perfect to have before we kicks off with Blind Dog and the outro of the album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I think the whole because Shell, he's, as I told you before, which you can't hear on this because this is more like classical music, if it sounds like anything. Normally his playing leans much more towards fusion and jazz, but since he kind of shocked us with this intro that didn't become an intro, it did become a song of its own. I don't know, I just liked it, so we just put it in there, and people seem to think it's cool, so why not?
Yeah. And then, you know, you just mentioned Blind Dog, which I think that's the heavy song of the album.
Yeah, very, very Deep Purple-ish.
Yes.
With the organ and things. I think on all the HFMC albums we have one or two like more rock sounding songs, and on this album I'd say this is the one, but at the same time it has other qualities too. The chorus is we go the other way around. The chorus is not the peak. The chorus is when we go down.
Right.
It's piano. In the first chorus, there's not even drums on it. Or the pre-chorus, I should say, before we start singing Blind Dog, Blind Dog. And then we have, for what it's worth, Mr. Hans Froberg playing lead guitar, which is, I think it's the first time actually. So I played the guitar solo at the end, which was not my idea. It was Anton, our lead guitar player, who is a phenomenal guitar player. He said, "No, I will not. This is yours kind of music. You know what a song like this requires from a guitar player. I would just be there doing all my fast licks or blah, blah, blah." That's his words. I know he would have done a terrific job if we would have put on a solo, if we would have recorded a solo for the song. Anyway, it ended up me doing the solo, which was fun, of course. But the thing is, I don't feel like a lead guitarist at all. I feel like a singer that plays a little bit of rhythm guitar and some slide guitar here and there. That's the way I see myself as a guitar player. But yeah, to be honest, I think I've done one or two solos before on the HFMC albums, but that's more like melodic lines, not because this is actually a real solo. And well, it turned out okay, I think, and I really like the song, and we managed to catch that old school hard rock vibe that was in the 70s, which is not easy nowadays when the many of the rock bands today, they have so much compression in the music. There's no headroom at all, and we don't have that sound at all, but we still have a potent sound, and it still sounds aggressive and heavy enough to be to make it a rocking song, even though we don't have those over-compressed kick drums and you know what it sounds like today. So I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and kudos have to go to the sound engineer Petrus Königsson, who is great at sounds. He's terrific, and he's like a magician. I think we've been working together for 4 albums now, 4 out of the 6. And if I have an idea, because I'm lousy and useless at sounds, I'm not like Roy or those guys who knows everything about sounds. I know a little bit about music, but not how to get the right sound. So that's why I have Petrus working with me, and I can say like, well, I want that kind of reverb they had on that album on David Bowie or whatever, and it takes like 15 seconds. Do you mean like this? Yeah, exactly like this. So we have like a mutual understanding, which is great, and it it creates a good working environment, and also effective, because we can move forward fast instead of you have a guy that never knows what you're talking about. He understands immediately what I'm looking for. So it's great, really, really good.
And then you end off the album with the part 2 of All I Wanted to Be, which I thought it's a nice little bookends.
Yeah, it is, and it's the same song as the start, but a totally different arrangement. Where we change key after a while, and we do the big chorus in a even slower tempo, and we try to make it as symphonic as it can possibly get, before we end up with me ending the album just my voice and my acoustic guitar, to round everything off, So there you have the album, and the concept that I just briefly mentioned. It's about, as I told you, the two persons in this coast town. Young girl grown up to be a woman, boy grown up to be man. The woman is having like a dysfunctional childhood in a broken family, no love, and she's not being abused or anything, but not a happy home.
Right.
And she struggles through life, and she never seems to get it right. On the other hand, the guy, his upbringing is in a happy and loving home, and he gets all the tools he needs to get a happy life, and to see what that can do with different people, and
right.
What is it? Is it does all these things? Is it like by coincidence, or is it like a destiny? Who decides where? Who ends up where?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like a, what do you say? Like a lottery. I was lucky to be brought up in a happy home, but I mean, I could just been brought up in a shitty home, but you never know. So it's so that's what the album is about, really. So that is the concept, but as I said, it's no really story or anything, but that's what all the songs are about those two persons and parts of their lives, and that's why the title Eternal Snapshots. We make snapshots into their lives here and there on their way through life. So that is the whole thing, really.
I like those types where, even though you say it's not really the story all the way through, but it's like this, exactly like your title, Eternal Snapshots. You're looking in their lives at different points of different situations, and I like those kind of things because you get the human condition.
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, that's more powerful than a fantasy story or science fiction story. The human condition is it's just amazing. I mean, even if you could take you could find just a small little subject about it, and you can blow it up into this fantastic, storyline, concepts of, or themes. You mentioned that there's more. It's more thematic than a concept album.
And I'm thinking the reason I use the word eternal is also because there are always, I don't know how many lives around the planet that are born every second. It's an eternal thing that's going on all the time. There's new destinies of lives created every second, so it's an ongoing thing. So that is also part of the title, or the the reason of the title. So, but it's as you said, it's interesting as it is, even if it is only about us persons. It's to me that's more interesting than as you say, fantasy or science fiction or whatever. I guess I'm kind of that kind of guy, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, also too, it's relatable.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and that's what I think that. I mean, if you're going back to the old ways of how you present music, it at least with vocals in it, these are relatable stories, and sometimes they create, you know, a mythology out of them, and sometimes they just keep it, you know, just a basic about two people or a group of people, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like this is a kind of an album that when we're long gone, it's going to be the kind of album that people are still going to be able to relate to. You know,
Well,
whether the music styles is completely different, someone will go back, because this has another quality that I look for in music. It has a timeless feel.
Yeah. You are the guy saying it, and I'm very grateful for it. But I mean, if that is the case, I'm honored and happy. Yeah, it would be great. But I think my songwriting is very much from me and who I am, and I don't try to. I just try to be honest with my music, and
Right.
I think it comes across very, very much, and especially in the latest album, really. Even if it's not about me, you can still you can hear it comes from me, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's if anyone that's been a fan of your music and hasn't purchased this yet, there's so many different ways to purchase it. I always tell someone, okay, you can purchase it, and even if you just don't even open it and put it on your shelf and listen to it, you know, on the different streaming site, at least you're purchasing it, and it's showing the artist that you actually care about this music. It's not a disposable thing. It's something that you're going to want to listen to many times. I really think that a lot of the newer pop music doesn't think on that level. I mean, they think more on what am I going to do today, and when it comes today, what am I going to do tomorrow? They're not thinking about whether that music that they put out today is going to last.
No, I think that's not part of the game. It's they're going to be right at the very moment. You know, it's
yeah,
to be hip and try to just what do you say? Yeah, if you're lucky, you're able to be what do you say, to be at the right time at the right place at the right time. But I mean, being a musician, as you mentioned earlier, I've been doing this for 40 years. You don't think like that. You just do what you do, and you can just hope that people will like and relate to it. That's all you can do, really. And I have had so many great. I mean, of course, I've had great reviews, but not of course, but I've had a lot of great reviews on the album. But mostly, I've had so much encouraging words and so much love from people that likes what we're doing, and they're very, very enthusiastic about the latest release. So, and that means a lot, and it tells me that even if you're getting older, it's not over. You still have something to say, you know, and it feels really good. And it is the same thing goes for the Flower Kings, because I thought and that needs to be said as well, in case anyone wonders. I didn't start the band, or the reason I started the band, I would say, is because I thought the Flower Kings was no more. Because when we stopped playing in 2008, I thought that was the end of it. I didn't think the
Right.
Flower Kings would return. So that's why I started the band, and we released the first album in 2010. And in 2012, the Flower Kings came back, and I was all of a sudden in two bands, and we released two albums in 2012 with just a couple of months between them, and we toured separately, but we managed to make it somehow. But
Right.
I mean, if you plan and organize things, it works. And I mean, today, lots of musicians are playing in lots of or in several bands at the same time, because it's, as we know, it's music is if you're talking about the economy, it's not good anymore. So one band is not enough. You need to play more, So
Yeah.
that's what it's like out there.
Yeah, I noticed there's a lot of people, they do have more than one band, sometimes two or three, just
if you look back in the day, you played in one band, and that was enough, and you did your record, and then you toured, and then you were free for a month maybe, and then you went into the studio again, and then now you need to so you need to have several bands to make it work. Seems to be the case nowadays, and I'd say after the pandemic it's even worse, because all the costs around touring has skyrocketed with the prices for flights, prices for nightliners, prices for everything has. And for instance, when we toured now in the last time with the Flower Kings, and we were going into England, which after Brexit we couldn't bring our own equipment. It would be too expensive, so it was cheaper for us to rent amplifiers and drums in England than to bring our own equipment over the channel. So that's where we are today, and everything is more expensive, and it's rough. But I mean, since you love music, what is there to do? It's and I'm going to continue. I've said to myself, for as long as it's fun, and for as long as it works, obviously, I'm going to continue. If in case the kids won't tell me, Dad, you're pathetic, it's time to stop. If that happens, I'll stop. But if not, I'm going to continue for as long as it's fun. That's what I promised myself. And
now, what do your kids think of your music? Because sometimes kids don't always like their parents' music.
I'm telling you the truth now, Ron. I did not try to influence them at all when it comes to music. My daughter, she's now 30, and her favorite band of all time is Queen and Led Zeppelin.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit more to the old kind of rock and roll style,
right?
But not just. I mean, both of those bands, they were more than rock and roll. They had lots of things going on in their music. And William, he's more. I'll say this is crazy. That my son William he's 32, and it's the classic prog bands. It's Genesis, it's Jazz, it's Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and it's a lot of new prog bands too. But he really loves the old giants, and the Deer Hunter is one of his favorite bands too. So, and once again, I did not. I promise you, I did not try to influence them. So they must have. They must have heard. Yeah. But the thing is, I did not play to them. But when I was out of the house, they were probably listening to my records.
I've heard that some do that they well, just like when we grew up, we were drawn to the record covers.
Yeah.
If you never even heard the band before, you're drawn to the record covers because they look very interesting and they're in whatever way they're speaking to you. And maybe that's the same that happened with them, you know, because obviously our parents didn't listen to this kind of music. You know?
No. My dad, he was into like Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, and those.
Yeah.
And my mother, she liked a lot of the Swedish jazz singers. We had some great jazz singers back then, actually. And she always also loved Elvis Presley, which my daddy hated. But that so and I remember, I actually don't remember. I've been told that every time they played Beatles on the radio, and I was like just a couple of years old, I went bananas. I just like stood there in the kitchen just shaking. I was going crazy till She Loves You, yeah, and those songs, you know. So I had a connection already back then before I even knew it. I thought there was something special with that type of music, and then I had this what do you say, a neighbor that was I don't know how many years older, but he had all those albums that, you know, it was everything from Deep Purple to Sparks to Slade and The Sweet and Nazareth and Black Sabbath, all those bands. So I went there with my cassettes. Please, can you record this? So I could bring it home and listen to my mono cassette player. You know?
Right.
So that's what started. I wasn't even 10 years old, I think. So it started very early with the interest for music.
Yeah, my up until I was about 14, which was 1980, I just listened to whatever my parents had going on in the car. I didn't have a deep-rooted thing until a friend of mine on my 14th birthday gave me Rush Permanent Waves.
Okay.
And when I saw this, opened it up, I saw, it was a cassette. You know, that's cool. And when I saw that, and I was thinking back then, why was he giving me this? And then now in hindsight, I think he saw something that I needed, that little push into that style of music. And because I was just listening to whatever was on the AM radio at the time. You know, nothing, no really rock music. And my parents, they loved the Beatles, only up until before they started getting into the psychedelic stuff. And that my dad says I lost interest after that, and my mother, same thing. They lost interest in that because that wasn't their thing. It's just like, but it's amazing.
Yeah, Permanent Waves, great album, by the way.
Yeah, and
maybe not my all-time favorite by Rush, but it's still a great album.
Yeah,
I remember another friend of mine, he was actually my age. He bought Fly By Night just because they as far as I remember, they were not the first album didn't make it for them over here at all. And he bought, like, out of the blue, Fly By Night because he thought the album, as he told me, the cover looked cool. And we were sitting there listening, and Anthem starts, and it's just like, yeah, really, really cool. And then Caress of Steel, maybe I wasn't that I liked the album, but I wasn't that over enthusiastic about it. And then 2112, you know, I remember I listened to it for a whole summer. I don't know which year it was, but I was like, what year was that released? I mean, I must have been. Yeah, I was thinking I must have been like 12 or 13 years old. I was listening to it all summer long, every day, like from when I wake up to the hour I went to sleep. I was totally crazy about that album. So I was very, very much a Rush fan for a while there.
Right.
Almost forgot about that, but I really, really loved them back then.
Yeah, it's amazing how you remember things and you have different what I call a music epiphany from a listener standpoint. I had that one, and then the next big one was I used to work in a record store, and the manager got tired of me playing bands like Metallica on the store speaker. So he says, okay, he says, this one's heavy, but I think you're going to like it. And then and I heard under his breath, he says, and I'm going to like it. They put in King Crimson Red. And that was basically, that head me down what they call the rabbit hole from that point on. And that was cool. That was in 91, 92 when I was working at the record store. And I think every kid, I mean, unfortunately, there's not that many record stores left, but I think every kid, that's where they should get their good education from.
Yeah, and it had such a magic to, I mean, obviously you didn't have that much money when you were a kid, and you were just in there, the smell of the records, and you looking at all these covers, and, you know, you just, and you can, you know, listen in the headphones and everything. I was something else, very, very different from now. And it kind of created a mystery around the whole thing. That was, that's, now everything is available. So that kind of mystery and well, that's unfortunately, I would say, gone by now.
Yeah, and the magic.
Yeah.
The magic, you know, because you didn't have the internet back then to tell you what's going on. You had to find out for yourself. Or if friends got the album ahead of you and they tell you, oh, you got to listen to this. You know, I know what your musical habits are. You got to listen to this. And it's a lot of it, I'll tell you, I found on my own by listening to it, like greatest hits, and then going and finding out where each song, what albums they came from. And I was always looking into any kind of books in the library that talked about music to know, okay, well, I listen to this band. What other bands can I listen to that in the same general style? But nowadays, all they need to do is just, you know, get their phone and, you know, type it up, and it's right there. I mean, I like that too. It's a convenience, but I prefer when you get word of mouth, when someone, you know, I tell you something or you tell me something, you know.
Yeah. And I remember back in the day, I was, I bought, it was very expensive. They had this is early 80s, and I'm very much a hard rock fan. And I bought the British magazine called Kerrang. It came out, I think, every second week or maybe once a month. And I bought them all. So that was like the Bible, because then you read that, this is a new band. They're from Australia, or they're from America, or they're from Germany or whatever. And they got this album coming out. This sounds exciting. I have to check them out. And you go to the record store. Yes, it's there, you know. So that was a way to do it back then. And of course, we had some Swedish magazines as well. But Kerrang was more like almost like the Bible if you were into hard rock back then. Really, really cool. And at the end of the day, when your own band made articles in that, it was like a sensation. When we got a big, like 4-page article in Kerrang, which we did after the second album, which felt crazy, you know. But but I mean, at the same time changes, and the kids that are grown up today, this is their reality, what they have to relate to, and So what can I say about that? I'm very happy. It was the way it was when I grew up, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's better than it is now, but I'm very happy with the way it was back then, and it made me really realize how much music, what an impact it has on me, and I'm sure it has on lots of people, and it's for some reason the music had more value back then. Nowadays it's like
Yes.
you just find it on Spotify, you listen 30 seconds, oh no, this is not for me, and as you said, the magic might not be there as much anymore, unfortunately, but yeah.
So everybody, this is his new album,
Yeah.
Eternal Snapshots. And I'd say this is one of my favorites of this 2024. I played it a lot, and I know I'm going to play it a lot, and continuously, because it just has that feel where you it resonates with you, and
Super.
I really think people, if you hadn't already purchased it and you're a fan of this guy right here, Hasse Froberg, it's something you need to get in your collection. Even if you get the digital download, at least they know there's still, that people still care about the music, and they're not just listening to it on streaming, and not paying for it.
Of course, we would appreciate that a lot, but as long as I'm just happy as long as people finds out about the band, and if they do, hopefully they will like it, and I think that is our main, not problem, but the main goal is to just be able to reach out to people. Right. Because it's we don't have a big major label or anything. Yes, I'm with the Flower Kings, so maybe some people know me from there, and
right.
But I think the music is worth reaching out to more people, and if it does, I'm sure a lot of people will like it. So yeah, I'm saying like Ron, go ahead and buy the album Eternal Snapshots by HFMC, and there's a good chance you will like it.
And also, too, the other thing is, if the band comes to your area or you're able to travel to them, that's another good way to tell them that they're doing a great job, because you want to go and see them live.
Yeah, we aim for playing live. We right now we just have 2 shows more to do, and we hope to do more, but that won't happen until next year. And we're working on it now, but I don't have any details to give you at the moment. But I hope we'll be out playing more on this live, more on this playing live, more on this album than we already have. Because I think the songs are worth it, and the songs or the shows we've done so far really came across really well, and I must say the new songs works very well in a live setting too, which is also kind of which tells me that it's a strong album, because if it works well in a live setting without too much hassle of bringing, we don't need any extra musicians or anything. We can play it live and it sounds pretty much like the album. So we're 5 musicians and 4 of us sings fairly good, so it's so far it's been working really well. But as I said, we're hoping to do more shows. Apart from the 2 we do have this year, the next one is in Norway, and then we play in our hometown, Catalin. We're actually we're playing in our hometown, Uppsala, at the venue Catalin. The plan is to do the whole album from start to finish. That will be the first set. Then we're gonna come back and play like 45 to an hour of music from our other albums. So that would be a very special show. And who knows? We are discussing it right now if we're going to record it, but we haven't decided yet. But that might be the case.
Yeah. So to find out, you go to your website, and I'm going to put that down below so people can.
Yeah, that's great.
And anything else, that you'll find on the website, any other news and other interviews, other reviews, you can find that also by using Google. So, it's all.
Yeah. I mean, and we got, I'm what do you say? Fairly active on Facebook and so on, and we try to update people on social media. And then we have our own, I think it's hfmcband.com maybe, the official, our official website where we put on the latest news, so to speak. So that's where people can keep themselves updated, and you have links to our records and everything there. So that might be a good start to check out things, and you can look at our videos and photos, and you have biographies and stuff there. So from all members and the band too, I think. Yeah, so that's a good start to check out the band. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your evening.
Yeah.
To talk with me, and I appreciate it because I appreciate your music a lot, and my goal when I first started this channel was to connect with the music that I liked, and also that turned into I found other people that were I thought should be interviewed.
Yeah.
I mean, I interviewed, I believe, if it wasn't last year, it was a year before, I interviewed Ronan.
Yeah.
And
that's correct.
So I try to get as many people that I can, because, at least it'll be out here on YouTube for people to discover. Even if they don't discover it at the time of its release, they'll discover it.
Yeah, that's great. Anyway, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ron, and great talking to you.
You too. And
you have a nice Saturday.
You too. And Sunday's going to be starting pretty soon.
Pretty soon, and I think I'm gonna have me a whiskey actually to celebrate that the interview went well.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'll definitely keep in touch with you, and I'll send you the link to this once it loads.
Yeah, super. Good talking to you, and
you
have
too.
a nice Saturday. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.